In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. I'm your host, Rick Everett, and for our regular viewers, welcome back in. And for some of you that may be tuning in for the first time, we're a weekly show dedicated to helping folks just like you avoid disaster and costly mistakes in retirement. A full team working together to help people with not just investment, but tax, Medicare, income, and estate planning. We have our complete panel is assembled today to begin with Investment Advisor Matt Goolsby with Market Advisory Group, Joshua Cicora, the lead CPA with Market Tax Services, from Market Medicare Advisors Cory Hiebert, and with Eidelman Law Firm Gerald Eidelman. Welcome in, everyone. Matt, the Federal Reserve constantly trying to tweak things and people trying to hedge their bets with the Reserve as what they're going to do with interest rates moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, as they're continuing to do what they are trying to do is get inflation under control, it's having a big impact on the markets. And, you know, this past year, we've seen the markets down, depending on which index you're looking at, 20 to 35%. And that's got a lot of people, understandably so, nervous and maybe worried about what's going on in their retirement. Met with a couple recently that actually they hadn't retired yet, but they were approaching retirement. And these market fluctuations were really starting to weigh on them. In fact, the wife said she was actually even losing sleep. But was having a conversation with them. They were still a couple years off, maybe about 2. And they had a financial advisor that they'd been working with, but he had not really brought them in for a review in quite a while.
You know, we hear that quite often as we meet with people, and that's what our team does here every day. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have questions and concerns with the market volatility and the threat of recession.
That's so true because, I mean, we talked about it on our radio show recently. For if you have a large loss early on in retirement, it can oftentimes have a huge impact on the quality or maybe even the longevity of your retirement. And that's something people never want at risk. I mean, you've talked to many people before, they're concerned maybe they have enough money or will they have enough money in retirement. And, you know, you'll hear sometimes people say, yeah, but the market will come back or it always comes back. And that's true. Typically, the market historically has come back. But sometimes you need to look at it and say, how long has it taken to come back? And we'll use a phrase around here at the office a lot of times that we can make more money, but we can't make more time. And you have to think about if it takes so long for it to come back, what kind of implications will that have on your retirement? Will it put off maybe you retiring? And we work with couples and individuals all the time to put plans in place to weather these economic uncertainties.
Well, and I'm sure that does help most people sleep better at night, knowing there's a plan and how they're positioned if this happens or that happens. Investments tend to get a lot of attention. And let's ask one of our Medicare advisors, Cory Hiebert, what was going on in these people's story as it came into play for you?
Yeah, well, I was meeting with this group very quickly. Starting the Medicare discussion was important on their retirement. We uncovered that they were contributing to an HSA. And whenever we're looking at Medicare, there's a lot of rules that we have to follow. And the HSA, even more than the Medicare side of things affecting, it has big tax consequences in the Medicare world. So at that point, whenever they brought up HSA, I instantly knew that I needed to grab Joshua from Market Tax Services to come in and enlighten and talk more on that subject.
Wait a minute. A Medicare advisor pulling in a CPA to get involved, that's a little uncommon. Joshua, your role?
Yeah, you're right. That isn't something that happens normally. However, when we're talking about a health savings account or an HSA, that is a tax-favored account where people can save for medical expenses and do so in a tax-free nature. Because they were moving to Medicare, the tax regulation is that they have to stop contributing to that account before they go on to Medicare. Now, a lot of people, that's okay, I'm getting off my employer plan, moving to that Part B coverage. But what people often forget is that Part A piece, the piece that doesn't cost you anything, triggers that rule also. And that's where, when I came in with Cory, we talked about that the timing of them moving to Medicare wasn't just that doctor piece, but also the hospital component on the Part A.
Just another example of why having a whole team working together for your benefit under one roof helps people like you every day here at Market Advisory Group.
We hear that so often. I mean, people will come in and have a first consultation with a financial advisor, and we'll hear someone say, well, I came to work with you guys. Yes, I have my own advisor. Yes, maybe I've had an estate plan done, or maybe we're already on Medicare, but you guys all working together around one table, working in unison, collaborating together to make sure we don't have costly mistakes in retirement. That's why we called your firm and we want to work with you guys. Because oftentimes as people have developed relationships with their financial advisors over time, they've become friends. And that's not uncommon. But they realize that there's tax implications, Medicare questions, and estate plan questions that go along with that plan. And if they're not doing that together, there could be maybe something they're missing that costs them a bunch of money. And one area that gets often overlooked is an estate plan because it's just either out of sight, out of mind, or whatever. And she recently lost her mother, and that had her thinking, what does she need in her estate plan? But there were some things that actually with her father that came into play as well.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, she had an aging father that was becoming less and less able to take care of his affairs. And so the intent was to make sure that they could do whatever they needed to do to be able to help him during his life, his last part of life. And usually there's a lot of things implicated when you're dealing with trying to transfer authority over your assets to somebody else. Normally the way we do that is through a power of attorney, and that's what we worked on with her. Now, what people don't realize is that if you have a father or a mother, an aging father, that requires help, that requires writing checks for them, managing their affairs, if you don't have a power of attorney, then you're left with only one option, and that is to get guardianship and or conservatorship over that person. Now, that's an actual legal process that goes through the courts and is kind of is time consuming, it's expensive to work through. And so one of the things that I recommend to everybody that I meet is, a simple power of attorney can prevent all of that. And that's what we did in this case, because that was a great concern of them. But there were also concerns about their own estate plan. They had nothing in place. They hadn't considered some of the ramifications of some of the assets they had. They had some rental property that they would be passing on to their children. And so they had to be able to develop a plan that would make that transition as smooth as possible. And sometimes people are looking at things like wills and trusts to help them. And in this case, we work with them in the trust simply because the trust tends to be a much more simple way of managing the assets that you own rather than going through a will, which requires going through the court system.
Well, they had renters in some of those rental properties that they were concerned that if they lost dad, they wanted everything to kind of be seamless for their tenants and have some continuity.
That's right, that's correct.
Do you have a whole team of retirement professionals looking out for you, from the estate planning to tax planning, Medicare advising, and investment advising? And if you don't have a whole team working for you, what critical piece of the retirement puzzle might you be missing that could end up costing you money down the road? At Market Advisory Group, we practice a holistic approach to retirement planning. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no-obligation consultation, our operators are standing by right now to take your calls at 316-252-8707. And I encourage you to check out our website at ionretirement.com. There you can catch past episodes or set up your own complimentary, no-obligation consultation. We'll be right back with more Eye on Retirement right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life. Another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet regularly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, you know, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Welcome back into Eye on Retirement. Matt, every day of every week, we see common scenarios, but really every situation, every individual client is unique.
That's so true. I mean, there are sometimes similarities, but generally everyone's situation is unique to themselves. They have a lot going on. Met with a couple recently that just retired, and quickly into retirement, they realized, gosh, we've never retired before. There's a lot of things we don't know here. They had a financial advisor, but he really wasn't a lot of help on a lot of things, primarily tax advice, and we'll get to that in a second. But this advisor that they'd worked with for years had helped them save for retirement, but saving for retirement and then the distribution phase is really two different things. And whether that's pairing it with Social Security, figuring out the tax implications there, Social Security timing, if you're married, you might have different options, or maybe you're widowed. But this couple, they were asking their old advisor some tax questions, and really his answer, it aggravated me, his answer, but they knew they needed to go get help elsewhere. They had some tax questions, and the advisor, of course, as a licensed financial advisor, I can't give tax advice either. We have to stay in our lane. But you think about that. Where have people saved for retirement? IRAs, 401ks, those accounts haven't had the taxes paid on them. And so when their advisor was trying to answer their tax questions, he said, you know what, you need to go find your own tax professional, or maybe I have someone I could refer you to. And they did their taxes themselves online. So they were their tax professional, and they were asking who they thought was their professional to help them in that situation. So they felt left alone.
You know, it's unfortunate, and we hear it more often than not. especially when it comes to reviews and people saying, I haven't heard from my advisor.
Yeah.
We have a lot of those people that end up in our conference rooms.
True.
They had an advisor they worked with and had a relationship, but yet they felt all by themselves all of a sudden.
They did. And, they thought they should take some money out to pay off their home. You and I have had this conversation with a number of people before. And when you take that money out of the IRA, it causes a taxable event, and understandably so. Their financial advisor did not feel equipped to help them navigate how much in taxes would it cost them. Would it be even beneficial to take the withdrawal out of that retirement account and pay the taxes? But so when all these questions were coming up with us, when they were visiting with us, I went down the hall and grabbed one of our CPAs, Joshua.
Yeah, this is a question we get pretty regularly, and I get it. I mean, going into retirement, not having that housing payment, there's a lot of emotional security that goes along with that. However, when you bring me into the conference room, you're bringing me in to talk about the tax consequence to that. And so when people are looking at whether it makes sense to pay off your mortgage with retirement funds, what they have to do is weigh out how much do they save, which is the interest, versus what it's going to cost them, which is their taxes. Now realize when you get to the end of your mortgage loan, mostly what you're paying on is the principal, which means there's going to be very little in interest you're going to save. Whereas when you have to pull money out of your retirement account, that's going to cost you federal taxes. Maybe you're in a 12% bracket, maybe you're in a 22% bracket, but then don't forget, most states are going to want a piece of that as well, and that's going to vary depending on where you're at. So you're looking easily at a 25% cost of whatever you're going to pull out, and you're just not seeing that kind of savings on the interest component to the loan.
When you walked them through that, I don't think it hit the first time, and then you did a spreadsheet and said, here's the dollar amount you're going to pay in taxes, here's the dollar amount you're going to pay in interest over the rest of your loan. I think that's when it clicked, when they saw, oh my gosh, if we do this all at once, it's going to cost us more than it would cost us in interest over the next couple of years.
Right. Sometimes explaining it abstractly like that is tough to see, but then when you show it black and white, here's what you're saving, here's what it costs. When you can see that right in front of you, it just like a light bulb turned on for them.
How great is it to be able to get accurate answers in real time, not pawning those people off to someone else, but helping them understand the consequences in that moment when the question comes up. Since they were retired, let's ask Cory with Market Medicare Advisors, what was going on with their health care plans?
Yeah, so with this group, it was more specifically about the prescription drug portion because they were, one of them was diabetic and one of them was taking some more expensive medications. So of course that plays a big factor into what decisions we're going to make when it comes to Medicare coverage, because we don't want to pay for drugs. We want to get the lowest cost possible. And as we looked, one of them actually had a very specific drug that we weren't finding any good coverage options when it came to Medicare. And the best recommendation that I could make at that point was a prescription drug plan that would cost $75 a month. At which point I said, you know what, you're taking a bunch of inexpensive medications and this one bad one. Let's take a look. And we went completely outside of the world of Medicare, and we went to a prescription cost saver. There are tons of them out there on the internet, or little free cards you can get. And we were able to find a prescription saving program that offered better coverage on that one drug than Medicare could cover. And not even kidding, we took his best option being a $75 a month plan, decided we would do that drug on the prescription saver, and his next best option was now $7 a month. So a tenth of what he was paying before, all because we found one drug outside of Medicare.
Another great example of having a whole team working together, looking out for your best interests. Matt, I'm sure you see people daily that come in from all different backgrounds, unique situations, that the team can help every day.
It's so true, and not just with the investment side or not with when to take Social Security or those questions, but also the tax and Medicare and, estate planning as well. And back to this couple, they had just entered retirement. They didn't really have any kind of estate plan whatsoever. And we just talked about in the previous segment about how important it is just to have those basic power of attorneys. They had nothing. And so if one of them was incapacitated, they didn't have any documents to help get money out of the retirement accounts. But what specifically was of most importance to them is they had 3 children. and 2 were okay on their own. 1 suffered from severe depression, and they were really worried about how this child might, handle things if they inherited all this money right on their own. And I said, well, we have estate planning attorneys here. So I brought in our lead attorney with Eidelman Law Firm, and he had a conversation with them about maybe some things they should consider.
Gerald, share with us.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, whenever you have a child that either has special needs, whether it be because they're disabled or in this case because they have an inability to manage their money, you can use a special vehicle like a trust to control how those assets are transferred to this child. So rather than leave a lump sum to that child that they can't handle or may waste away, you can use the trust to hold on to that money, protect it for that child, and be able to pay over time so the child gets his or her needs met, and at the same time, the money doesn't get wasted.
Estate planning, a critical portion of retirement planning, and at Market Advisory Group, the whole team looks out for you. From the estate planning, looking out for not only your retirement wishes, but the safeguarding of your heirs, the tax planning, Medicare advising, and financial planning. We do it all under one roof for your convenience. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no obligation consultation, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707, and check out our website at ionretirement.com. We'll be right back with the final segment of this episode right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have, by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi, and welcome back into Ion Retirement. All of the components of retirement planning for a healthy retirement coming together at Market Advisory Group. And you may have never even realized that you were going without one of those important components until an expensive incident ends up costing you thousands of dollars.
So true. I mean, we probably see it the most or most frequently happen between the investment side and the tax component side. Just because probably people have to file their taxes every year. It's something that they think, oh gosh, why did we owe? But we try and get to people before it costs you a bunch of money or before you have a big tax bill. But sometimes we meet you guys out there because you have had to pay a lot in taxes, or you've lost some money in the market and you're concerned about that. And then you come in and you start the conversation, and that starts us building the relationship. But, the ideal time obviously is to come in and make sure we're preventing that before it happens. But we find sometimes people are too busy living life, and, they just don't think about it until, ouch, it costs them something or it hurts them in some way. And like I said, we see often where there's a taxable event, or like I said, the losses in the market. And I can't stress enough how beneficial it is to have the CPAs in-house with the investment advisors helping us make that plan together, or maybe avoid those mistakes or set the withholdings right. I could go on and on.
It's a lot different working with a CPA than somebody who just prepares your taxes.
Right. Usually tax preparers meet with their clients just during tax preparation season, which is February, March, and April, I hear.
How about that?
How about that? But the great thing about Market Tax Services working with the financial advisors like we do is that we meet with clients not just during that piece of the year, but also in, say, October, November, December, to do tax planning before the end of the year, so that this way we can be proactive, make intentional tax changes to save money or to avoid paying monies that wasn't required.
You know, surprises are just a fact of life, but retirement planning time is not the ideal time to unearth those. And Gerald, just real briefly, it amazes me how many people come in and are ready to do their Medicare planning, ready to do their tax planning and investment planning, but haven't even given a thought to a will.
Yeah, no, and it's unfortunate because not having proper estate plan can wreak havoc on your family once you're gone. I mean, one of the biggest things that people don't realize is people think that, couples in particular, think that they have joint accounts and they own everything jointly. So if something happens to one of them, whether they're being incapacitated or they're dead, then the other person would have access to those accounts. But there's one account that is not jointly owned, and that's the individual retirement account. Each individual owns their own. And so if a spouse is sick or incapacitated and the other spouse needs to access those funds, then they cannot do so unless they have a power of attorney or they go to court and get a conservatorship over that person.
It takes a team, Matt, and we emphasize that all the time, to not overlook one of the critical pieces of the puzzle.
Well, and there's just so many things that change, whether it's recent law changes or tax changes, whether it's changes to Medicare, whether it's estate planning changes, or just what's going on with the market. It just takes us all together working to stay up on top of that.
You don't want to miss a critical piece of this puzzle when it comes to retirement planning, whether it is the estate planning, looking out for your interests and those of your heirs, Medicare advising that could end up costing you or saving you many dollars per month, the tax planning, tax preparation, as well as the investment planning. We do it all here at Market Advisory Group, and we do it under one roof for your convenience. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no obligation consultation, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. That's all the time we have this week. I'm Rick Everett, reminding you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or is excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.